magazine, salt and pepper and heavy D up in the limousine. Hanging pictures on my wall.
All right, starting early. Welcome, everybody who retweeted Chris Vaccaro's tweet, and he's got this idea in his head that every high-stakes player in the world is going to be here. Welcome to our show. I hope you're excited for it. It's our playoff special. How are you doing, Chrissy V?
Nando, doing good. Another week of trying to deal with you. Always fun and frustrating.
You love it.
And this week we have a special treat, Nando. We are breaking down a NFFC contest. Perfect. First interruption of the show, as many more to come. And this week we're breaking down an NFFC playoff contest. It's always fun once the year is over, Nando, to kick back, relax, and play some of these playoff fantasy contests and try and make some money in them. And it's as we go on in the show, we'll talk about how we're breaking this team down and our strategies behind it. And there's so many different strategies that you can apply to this playoff contest. It's a lot of fun, but also very challenging. So let's get into it.
So I know a lot of people here. Well, I mean, whatever. Maybe not. Have played in playoff challenges before. The ones I'm familiar with and the ones you're probably all familiar with are, the ones where you pick a team and you don't touch it for the rest of the playoffs. So you kind of got to reverse engineer who you think is going to go far because that'll get you the most games and the most points and all that. There's another one you can do. Obviously, you can just, you can draft the team with the same kind of idea. There's Survivor, where you can pick one player every week from a team. You can't pick the same player twice. So you kind of got to also keep in mind who you think is going to be around. Like, if you think the Dolphins are going to lose and you want to save Tyreek Hill, those are two warring points of view for that format. But this one for the NFFC, and I know you've got to – I'm going to keep it clean and say you're very excited to tell us about the rules, but essentially for normal people who might be listening or watching, the game is almost the same as the one where you want the player to go far. It multiplies their points by round as long as they're still on your roster. So you pick them early, you hope they go all the way, and it's times 2, times 3, times 4. It's almost like a video game as you power up those players round by round. If they lose, you're allowed to go in and replace them. For the first round, when you're picking, you can only pick one player from any team. There are 14 teams and 12 positions. You don't have to start a tight end. They're all grouped together as a wide receiver tight end position. There's no extra special tight end scoring.
Let's back it up there, Nando.
I'm sorry.
You're going to start 2 quarterbacks in this NFFC contest.
That wasn't back. That was next.
You're going to start 3 running backs. The rules have changed from past years where you're getting 3 running backs nowadays with 4 starting wide receiver / tight ends. So if you want to start 4 tight ends, you can. Okay. It's 4 receiver / tight end spots. And then the 5th spot, instead of a 4th running back, is now a flex spot. So if you want to go 4 running backs and 4 tight ends and a flex, you can. 4 running backs and 4 receivers, you can. That extra flex spot now is to do whatever you want with it, and as well as a kicker and a defense. And we're fading 2 teams in the first round. Like you said, Nando, there's 12 starting positions with 14 teams, obviously, in the playoffs here, with the additional 2 that started in the playoffs in the last couple of years.
That was a much less painful rules recap than I thought you were going to do, the way you talked about it earlier.
There you go.
Give me 5 minutes to explain the rules. All right, the rules are in the description of this YouTube cast as well. All right, let's get to it. Unless you want to talk about something irrelevant.
Nope, I'm ready to go, Nando.
Hold on, I'm going to present my screen.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, all right. For the first time ever on this show, we're going to be presenting screens. We can't do it on Chris's because he doesn't know how to work a laptop, so we'll be doing it on mine here. Okay, everyone,
You're controlling the situation there, buddy. So
here are the rules. I hope everyone enjoys that.
Nando,
we're going to go to
roster
my teams.
Yeah, way to be prepared.
Here we go. We had a lot of trouble getting to this point.
Yeah, we did. Also, while Nando is punching this up, and for the people listening at home that don't want to hear just Nando trying to get into the actual team, you could go over to NFFC website. There are two contests. It's the $200 entry for the big one. The overall winner gets $150,000, and I think they pay the top 50 in the contest. So that's the big prize. And there's also, if it works out better for you, there's also the mini playoff contest, which is a $50 entry. So two different price points, same exact rules to each. Just pick whatever contest, or hey, play both. I'm sure the Greg and Derek and Tom over at NFFC will be happy if you play both. So pick your contest and enter away. And this is the spreadsheet that Nando put up, and it's fun, Nando, because in past years here. Let's start with this. In past years, Nando, I think everybody always looked at this contest as, let me put the two quarterbacks in that I think are going to face off in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. And as years have gone by, we've learned that that's not necessarily the winning combination. You don't want you don't necessarily have to win by choosing the two quarterbacks that meet up in the Super Bowl with an X4, as we say, getting 4 times the amount of points. So there's different ways to play this, and we'll get into it starting now.
Do you want to start at quarterback, or do you want to? Is there someone like you are looking at specifically? They're like, I just got to make sure I got McCaffrey as my running back. Is there somewhere I mean, I know there's no salary.
Let's start up. Let's start up. Well, McCaffrey, I think, will be. It's not that easy, Nando, to be honest, because you look at how we all look at this playoff contest, Nando, and I think the majority of the people expect the 49ers to be in the Super Bowl and the Ravens to be in the Super Bowl. Okay, they're the clear favorites in the AFC and NFC. So if we went on past years' ways of playing it, everybody would just put Lamar Jackson in at one quarterback spot and Brock Purdy in at the other quarterback spot. But as a whole, I think we look at it as, all right, the Niners, that Purdy isn't the star of their team. And usually the team that gets to the Super Bowl from the AFC and NFC, you want that big-time star quarterback. But Purdy isn't that on the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey is looked at as the must-have guy. So I think there's going to be a small handful of guys are the chalk in this. I think Lamar Jackson at quarterback will be very chalky for the Ravens, Nando, just because when you look at the Ravens as a team, who else are you going to want to pick on that team to get you X4? That, 1 week it could be Zay Flowers that leads the team in receiving, Isaiah Likely another week. The run game is all over the place. You really don't want to take the kicker or the defense. So I think Lamar Jackson is the set it and forget it quarterback that we take from the AFC and hope that the AFC representative is the Baltimore Ravens. I think he is chalky, so let's start there. Unless you see it a different way, Nando.
No, I agree with you. Just Baltimore, that one's important to me because of what you just said. Zay Flowers is the only other person I consider for that. Mm-hmm. For our Baltimore guy. Okay. But Lamar Jackson just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the part where we want to go obtuse,
Yeah, I agree with that.
Or Justin Tucker. I would take Justin Tucker from the Ravens.
I don't think you could do that. I mean, the Ravens could win a game 28-10, and you get 4 points from Tucker. I know this is where your comedic genius. I know this is where your comedic genius comes in. I know, no. Nando. I've been around you way too long to know what your jokes are and everything. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, you bit though.
I did a little bit.
Similarly. Mm-hmm. I see Buffalo kind of as the Josh Allen play because of you can't trust Cook anymore. Something weird happened when Joe Brady took over. Yes. Stefan Diggs wasn't getting as many they were playing like a very precise, methodical game, but Josh Allen was still scoring. He was running for a lot.
Yeah. Nando, I think when you do this contest is another point I want to bring up. I think most people will try and look at who's playing opening weekend that can get to the Super Bowl, right? And I think this year it's pretty clear that it's the Bills and the Cowboys with Josh Allen and Dak Prescott, because a lot of people are going to be enticed to say, okay, right off the bat, I can have my quarterback going, and I could see either one of them going in and playing 4 times and getting 4x. And a lot of people don't love the fact that Lamar Jackson has to take that 0. Okay, they don't want to have to sit there in week 1 and not have their quarterback in play. They want to go a different direction. So Josh Allen and Dak Prescott are going to also be very highly considered for quarterback play. You can mix it up. You could go with a Lamar Jackson and a Dak Prescott if you think, the Ravens and Cowboys are going to meet up in the Super Bowl. If the Cowboys could possibly upset the 49ers, you could switch it. Maybe a Brock Purdy versus a Josh Allen. So you have one quarterback going and one on the sideline. So there is, there's multiple ways to play the quarterback position. But for now, I think it's the safest play to go with Lamar Jackson, just because of, unlike the Bills, there's other decent options on that team to use.
I like this Jordan Love point that Joey Brown made too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, because again, like we're looking at the same scenario. I mean, maybe this is with the correlation as well. These, you got a quarterback. Yes. Your quarterback's the sure thing on that team. Mm-hmm. You got a couple wide receivers that had some nice late season surge. We're not going to touch the tight ends on Green Bay. I guess you could look at Aaron Jones maybe as a guy that you'd want on Green Bay, but
Nando, Joey's point here, and it's what I've always preached in this contest, is the other way to play the quarterback position, which is what I kind of like to do, is if we have a Lamar Jackson set in, and I think the Ravens are going to go to the Super Bowl, and I'm going to get a 4x out of Lamar Jackson. Another way to play this is if you have a quarterback that you like on opening weekend here in these games that you think could put up and post a really nice number and get eliminated at the same time. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that fit the billing this year for that, because of, you don't want to take a Jordan Love, just say, and he wins, he pulls the upset this week, and then next week he's got to go to, just say, San Francisco, and they're not winning that game. And now you had your quarterback at 2, knowing that in the third week you have to start back at X1 for a quarterback. So the strategy behind that, Nando, is let me get a quarterback that I know is going to lose, but it is a good possible position. A lot of people are going to point to that Detroit Rams game, right? High, 52 total. You have Goff and Stafford, meeting up. One of these guys could lose a game 31-28, put up 35 fantasy points, get the boot, and then you allow to reset your quarterback and hopefully hit an X4 quarterback with an X3 quarterback in the Super Bowl, with replacing a Jordan Love. For this instance, using him, you could replace Jordan Love with a Dak Prescott, right, in the second round. And then when you have your CD Lamb already in as X1, now you have the quarterback wide receiver hookup, which to me is the number one strategy you have to apply in this contest, is getting your star wide receiver hooked up with their quarterback and have them go throughout the playoffs up until the Super Bowl. Okay. So
should we just steal Joey's idea?
Well, I mean, listen, that's something that definitely has to be played into a factor here as we go along, Nando. With your second quarterback here, if you want to talk about it,
it's got to be NFC. Are you? This has to be NFC, right?
Okay,
so both sides.
Yes, that's exactly how I would play it, Nando. But in this scenario, if we're trying to just get the quarterback one and done, I mean, you could play Tua Tagovailoa if you think the Dolphins are going to be one and done, and maybe he could put up a 30. Okay,
I was thinking Allen, actually.
Who? Josh Allen?
Yeah.
Why would you? I just said somebody to get eliminated, Nando. So I would look, like I said, to either the Eagles and Bucks game, right? With either Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield, if you have a strong opinion on one of those two guys,
Baker Mayfield
put
can't.
him-
For our second quarterback, you want to go with Baker Mayfield?
Okay, but Baker Mayfield can versus that Eagles defense in week 1 can have a field day against them, right? And the Eagles can get out of there with a nice 28-24 win. And now you have your replacement. It's going to depend on, Nando, who we use at the receiver positions, because what we want to do is make room for, like Joey said in this scenario, Dak Prescott in round 2. Okay, if that's the way we want to go, or Brock Purdy in round 2. Okay, if we go with a 49ers wide receiver, most likely we're going to go, try and hook up with the CD Lamb, Dak Prescott combination. So I think that the strategy here, Nando, is to go with a quarterback that you think is going to lose from the Lions and Rams game or the Eagles and Bucks game.
At least I would say at least the Lions are all. If you're taking those 4 quarterbacks,
yeah,
I would say like Baker Mayfield is my number 4, right?
okay.
Like we still want to score points here, but I guess
but why don't you feel that way? But why don't you feel that Baker Mayfield can have a solid game, versus this Eagles defense? It's kind of the scenario that we're looking for it to play out. He's got the worst secondary. He's up against the worst secondary with Godwin and Mike Evans. Eagles are tough to run on, so maybe it's a slower game for Rachaad White, and Baker Mayfield has to step up, and he can have a 310-yard passing game with 2 or 3 touchdowns, and then they lose, and you get those Baker Mayfield points. It comes down to who do you like the most, Nando, and do you think the Lions beat the Rams or the Rams beat the Lions?
I think the Rams are on fire right now.
Okay, so you like the Rams.
But the Lions are a Super Bowl team. Here's the thing. Like, to me, the Rams are like that, just like that white hot, like, don't touch. But they can flame out quickly. They have holes. Like, there are ways they can be defeated. Whereas the Lions seem like just a better bet to go far. Like, that's just like your old reliable horse that can go a little farther.
Well, if the Lions win in week 2, they have to go into Dallas and play the Dallas Cowboys, which, yes, they almost won that game. They almost won that game, but you got to keep in mind here that we don't know the status of Sam Laporta as we come into this first week. If Sam Laporta is out or severely hobbled, okay, you're looking at a Detroit Lions offense that, you have a completely different outlook on, right? It's just Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is another one of those small handfuls that I talked about at the top of the show that I think are going to be the chalk Lions pick right here. I think you want to do that. And I think that you have, Goff can completely crap the bed in this game. It could be a heavy run approach versus the Rams. So in my opinion, I would look at the other game, or I would look at Stafford. I wouldn't use Jared Goff in this scenario for the main reason that we're going to have to get Amon-Ra St. Brown as one of our top receiver picks in this contest as our Lions.
Why don't we put Amon-Ra St. Brown in here right now and get rid of this Lions element, right?
Yep. Go to wide receiver. Yeah. Let's go to wide receiver up top.
All right. There we go.
There you go. And why don't we do this, Nando? Why don't we plug in another chalky play with CMC at running back?
Who is CMC? Charles Michael.
You'll figure it out eventually.
All right. So now we got Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, so here's the thing. Like, I mean, I know this. Like, just reinforcing the point here. Christian McCaffrey is it. Lamar Jackson is it. Like, these are guys we think are going to go far for us, and we're not replacing them.
That is correct.
That's that is correct.
Unless you're coming in building this team, Nando, with the outlook of, I think the Bills are going to go to the Super Bowl. Now, let's just take a quick step back and look at the overall playoff here, Nando, because you tell me what teams you can honestly see going to the Super Bowl in each conference real quick.
I'm not sure. Like, this is usually at this point in the last 3 years, I've actually picked the Super Bowl winner. I've been good. Like, I know, like, right now, like, there are some elements. I think I'm very strong on the 49ers. I feel like they have a Tom Brady style quarterback. I think when he went down last year was totally unfair, and they could have gone far with him. I think the trade for Chase Young has changed that defense, just like it did for the Rams when they traded for crap. Forgot his name already. But like with 7 weeks to go before the playoffs, I think that's a similar move. I think it's gonna be the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side,
mm-hmm.
Everyone's on the Ravens so hard, man. I don't know. I think it could be Cleveland. But I think that we've seen Joe Flacco lay egg after egg after we finally embrace him. That Joe Flacco who throws 5 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's a little older and wiser and doesn't have anything to lose now, and he's just going for it. And Stefanski is like just the perfect fit for him. So I could see Cleveland. Their defense is so good. Right, I could see Cleveland doing it, man.
I could see 3 teams out of the AFC. I could see either Baltimore, the 1 seed, Buffalo, the 2 seed, or Cleveland, the 5 seed, as the only 3 teams in the AFC that make the Super Bowl, as well as in the NFC. I am with you. I think it's a clear 49ers road to the Super Bowl. I like the way the matchups.
When the Rams got Von Miller. That was it.
Oh, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah. That changed that team and got them in the Super Bowl, I think. That strengthened their defense. The same way Chase Young did it for the 49ers.
Yeah. So the 49ers, I think, are the clear favorites there. But if there's going to be a team that you want to jump onto to pull an upset, I think it is the Dallas Cowboys. And I think it's a perfect road for the 49ers, just the way this broke down. And it's funny, too, because I think for the last 2 months, we all said that whoever wins the NFC South, was going to get blasted in the first round by either Dallas or Philadelphia being the 5 seed. And now here we are. It's surprisingly Philadelphia in the 5 seed. Okay, that everybody hates. I'll tell you the honest truth. If Philadelphia was matched up against any other NFC team, I would have picked against Philadelphia. But the fact that they have Tampa Bay, and I just can't see Tampa Bay winning a playoff game with as bad as a team as they are, I'm going to go with Philly. But I think after that, Philadelphia is absolutely dead. So if Philly in round 2 had to go into San Francisco, I think they'd get blasted even worse than they did when the game was in Philadelphia weeks ago. So I don't think San Francisco is going to get challenged until the NFC Championship game. So I think we're on the right path along with anybody. Sometimes you got to be chalky in this contest, Nando, with your thoughts. And I think everybody believes in the Niners being in the Super Bowl. And that's how we're looking at this contest. Go ahead.
We haven't mentioned Patrick Mahomes or anybody on Kansas City for that matter.
Yeah.
I assume that Kelsey's is that going to be our guy in the wide receiver tight end spot? Because if we put Mahomes with Jackson, I mean, you get. I could see it being Mahomes. He hasn't been the same Mahomes. I don't know, Pacheco. Who knows?
Nando, right? Nando, I am completely against.
Is that going to be a team we leave out?
No, you can't leave them out just because you expect them to play 2 games. I think they'll beat the Dolphins. Dolphins are just so beat up, defensively. I think at home in the cold weather, it's going to be 0 degrees there. I think the Chiefs are going to find a way with their experience and like I said, with all the Dolphins issues. And it's a shame.
The Chiefs aren't a cold weather team. Just because they're home in the cold weather doesn't mean they're like Buffalo. Right?
I mean, the Chiefs have played 0 degrees, 10 degrees. Yeah, I understand that. But as a team, you're talking about a Miami team going into 0 degree weather, a Kansas City team that their core of players have been in the playoffs year after year playing cold weather games in December and January. So, but what you just said with Travis Kelce, absolutely not. Now, there are, a good amount of teams in this fantasy playoffs here, Nando, that you look at, and it's going to be scattered all around on who to use on some of these teams. Now, Kansas City, I don't think is one of them. I think that when you look at your 3 running back spots and who you want to use and factor in the receivers on certain teams that you might say, oh, Tony Pollard, Chris, let's use it. No, you want to use CD Lamb, right? He's got a great path opening week. He's got great matchup for him. Go on to week 2 versus the Lions. You're going to want a CD Lamb in that game that he just caught, 100 balls versus them the last time, especially if we play it out where we want Dak Prescott in, he's going to be there. So when you go through this contest by process of elimination with certain teams, I think the clear pick to use from the Kansas City team, I don't think Mahomes will be highly owned in this contest. I don't think Kelsey will be highly owned in this contest. People will try and fade and get creative and use those two guys. I just don't see a scenario where Kansas City goes into Buffalo in week 2 and wins that game. I think Kansas City is a terrible team. I've been saying it for months. And just like, the Eagles in the NFC, I just don't see them winning more than one game in this contest. So I don't want to use a Mahomes and have to get him in this week and then have to use him in the second week in Buffalo in another bad weather game environment that sets up poorly for him, and then he's ousted. So my selection, Nando, if you agree, because this is going to be mostly your team here, is got to be Isaiah Pacheco.
Just because you suck at this game, don't throw it on me like this is my. I haven't picked one of these players. You've picked all of them.
Did you disagree with any of them so far?
If I disagree with you, what are you going to do?
Okay, so go ahead. Do you not agree with Isaiah Pacheco as one of the running backs?
I guess. You tell me, man. This is your team that you're building. This was your idea. You said just sit there and ask questions and put anything Joey Brown says on screen.
Yep.
That's basically that's. Yeah.
So you want so I'll say this, Nando. I would have Pacheco in as a running back in one of those running back spots. I think he's in line for a 15-20 touch game in opening week, and I think he'll be a useful piece in the second week. And it doesn't hurt us when we're still planning this out to get into our combinations later on. There's no combination you're going to want to hook up with a Kansas City Chief after this first round. So I think Pacheco is a really good play in this contest.
Just hear me out on this question that I have about Shane or Mostert, right?
Sure.
If you pick a guy who's got a bye, you're going to you start at week 2, like they played in week 1, they're going to get double the points no matter what, if they have the bye. And then it sets it off like they played the first week. So, 3x, 4x as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
If you get a guy like Mostert and you're like, oh man, he's not going to play that first week. But you think they're going to win the game because, they're a volatile team. They can put up a lot of points. They can kind of make up for a completely destroyed defense a little bit with their offense. And like, oh, Mostert, he's hurt. He's not going to be great. Maybe he'll be healthy for the second week. I'm very confident he'll be healthy for the second week and they're going to win. Isn't that almost the same idea as having a bye and getting him in that lineup? If he's your Miami guy, is that an important, like, do you see what I'm saying? Like,
no,
you may not be scared off on injuries on a team you like because that 2x happens.
Well,
and that's almost like having a bye.
I think that people are going to look at the Dolphins and Tyreek Hill is going to be their chalk wide receiver. You have 5 spots that you can use for a wide receiver / tight end. And I think they're one of the teams that you can actually get a little creative with and fade with either. And this is the question where it comes in, Nando, is A-Chain or Mostert. There's such a, it
right.
looks as of now where it's a Wednesday, you have until the weekend, but it looks like Mostert's going to come back. Now there's all these question marks about how is the backfield going to be broken up. If you want to get creative, I think there'll be a nice little percentage on A-Chain. And if they say Mostert's full practice by Friday, I think there'll be some people that use him to get creative in this contest. So the Dolphins is definitely one of those teams where I'm struggling with on who to use because I think Tyreek Hill will be 75% owned as the Dolphins representative. And I don't think they win the game. And he's got all these injuries now. He was limping around all off the field, coming out of the game late. If he drops a dud in this opening week in Kansas City, one of those 5 for 60 games, and it doesn't really help you, and an A-Chain or Mostert, you slide in, and they're the ones that has the decent game and score 18, 20 points. That's what helps you along the lines because there's going to be so many entries that have the same combinations, the same player on each team, So if you want to fade a Tyreek Hill, you can easily go that route with an A-Chain or Mostert, but that's where the problem comes in. If Mostert was out, then yeah, I would bump up my A-Chain exposure in this contest big time.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like, so say you pick Kyron Williams, right? Say a different team picks Kyron Williams as their running back, right? And Detroit beats LA. And they got to start over with a new running back, and Miami beats Kansas City, and Mostert's going to be healthy. They'll get one time the points for Raheem Mostert.
Right.
If you just say, screw it, I'm going to play Mostert as Miami guy week 1. And if he plays and gets 10 touches, whatever, fine. But I know they're going to beat, I feel very strongly they're going to beat Kansas City. I'll have his double points for week 2 and be that far ahead of everyone else who's going to be bringing him in for week 2 for those one-time points. Is that over strategizing, or is that wow? That's
do you think
what
think
Joey
Miami's? Do you think Miami is going to play? More than one game? Do you think they have the chance to win a second game?
I'm giving a hypothetical. I'm not that strongly convinced that it's going to be Miami. I do think Kansas City could just play duds. Like you said there, I don't think they can do it, but then again, maybe they've been playing possum, we know how to play the postseason. Let's just get in and then run the table. We know all the little nuances and the things you have to do to be good and to win a game 17-14 that a lot of teams don't. So I do think there's an element of that scares me a little bit when you're just saying they suck this year. They don't have any wide receivers. They didn't have any wide receivers last year either. They kind of have everything except for Bieniemy.
Listen, you have up until game time as well to, if Mostert doesn't play, you could switch it to A-Chain. So if you want to go with one of the Miami running backs, I also think that I also think it's an option to maybe make Miami one of the faded teams, So I think that's also a possible explanation because Tyreek Hill is going to have Ladarius Sneed on him. So that's going to be, a tough matchup for him. And Waddle is supposed to, be coming back for this game, most likely. So people could go and, fade Tyreek Hill with the other Dolphins receiver and really be in the minority ownership with this Miami team. So Miami's definitely, along with Cleveland, I think for sure, is another team where it's a real struggle for people doing this contest to figure out with who they're going to go with. Let me take us to the Rams. Because I think the Rams are the opposite of what we've been talking about with a lot of these teams where it's the quarterback's really strong. You know what I mean? The Rams, you could take almost anybody. And the Rams are definitely the other team, Nando, that I'm talking about with the Clevelands and the Miamis. There are 4 or 5 good options and ways you can go. And that's what makes this contest so tricky this year, and as opposed to previous years. Go ahead. But it's you're applying the same logic to at least for me, to Puka and to Kyron Williams. Those are incredibly high upside, can do a lot with a few touches, and the Rams can go deep. They're just whether you believe in momentum or not, that's a team that's kind of everyone's healthy now. You know what I mean? That's a healthy team that has hit a stride. Sure. And so how do you decide between Kyron Williams and Puka? Is it just I like, I've already got McCaffrey and Pacheco here and I'm okay with this third running back from a different team. I need to fill up wide receiver spots. So let me get Puka in there because really it's 5 wide receivers and I want those to be my strong spots. And I'm okay with Tony Pollard. How do you go Kyron versus Puka? Okay. Well, it's not only Puka, it's also Cooper Kupp, Nando. And I think that's going to be a tough decision. Yeah. Why not? Why not? Why are we forgetting about Cooper Kupp in this? Forget about him. He's got bad knees. He's gotten old. He had a pretty damn good December, didn't he? So here's the biggest strategy. I touched on it at the top of the show, Nando, and I'm going to answer your question by giving you this scenario. We already have Amon-Ra St. Brown locked in our lineup, right? Now, I told you that to me, the biggest strategy that you want to apply in this contest to me is making sure you open up spots at that wide receiver tight end spot or the flex for the second week to start getting your combinations going, right? Yep. So in this scenario, Amon-Ra St. Brown, you want to use one of the Rams wide receivers if we're going to build it out this way. if you don't want to use one of the Rams receivers, and obviously, Nando, the reason why we do that is clearly if we use Puka Nacua, either Amon-Ra or Puka is getting eliminated, and it's going to open up one of these wide receiver spots for us.
Right.
And then we could start looking at week 2 to get the combination together.
Right.
A lot of people in this contest, Nando, what they used to do, and it would kill them because all they would do is look at their team and go, oh my God, I want to get Amon-Ra in, CD Lamb. Let's just use like a Zay Flowers and use 5 wide receiver tight end spots, 4 of them with the flex on 5 receivers, and they all wind up winning, right? And then come week 2, you can't take out any of those guys because they're all X2, but you're looking at your Josh Allen, just say, as your quarterback up there. And now you can't get Stephon Diggs in week 2 to start building your hookup if that's who you think is going to the Super Bowl. You obviously picked Josh Allen as your quarterback, so you want to bring Diggs into the contest in week 2 and take them X4, X3 as we go along. You can't block yourself after 1 week. And the only way to guarantee yourself of not being blocked is to have 2 receivers / tight ends against each other in your lineup. And the way we do that in this year, in this contest, in my opinion, is Amon-Ra with a Rams wide receiver. And either if you want to use an A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith with a Mike Evans or a Chris Godwin, both in the contest, or an Amari Cooper with a Nico Collins. So it's ever the way you want to play it. But to me, when I sat back and looked at this contest, those 3 combinations I need to put in my wide receiver / tight end flex spots. And so preferably 2 of them.
Would we stay away from the Nico Collins one because they're going up against Cleveland? Like, is that the tiebreaker? Like, okay, Evans can do something against Philly. Evans, Godwin, whatever against Philly.
Yeah.
Brown, Smith, great against Tampa Bay, fine, whatever. But like Collins, you look at it like Cleveland, man. I don't know, man. That's a rookie quarterback. That's a rookie coach. That
he would. Now let's talk that out, Nando, because that's a great point. I would, and I agree with you. I would leave Nico out, which would mean what, Nando?
But everyone's going to leave Nico out. I think everyone's going to have that same.
I don't think so. Who are you going to use as a Texan? Who are you going to use as a Texan?
Kicker, the defense. Leave him out.
Sure.
Yeah.
You could play it that way. But my point is, now that I'm going to leave Nico out, I'm also going to leave Amari Cooper out. And then that brings into, okay, well, now what Cleveland Brown am I going to use? And I think this brings up, I think the Cleveland Browns defense is going to be the most highly owned defense in this contest. Because obviously, they're a great defense. They have a decent matchup. They caused havoc versus the Texans a couple weeks ago when they played. And they have the potential to get to a second game, and you don't have to worry about replacing your defense. So, yes, I think that will be the case where the Browns defense is the majority defense owned. But I also want to put in your head when you make this lineup that maybe Jerome Ford is a decent option to fill out our 3rd running back spot on a team that we want to, put in a good play at a running back spot that could get us good points in a game while not touching our wide receiver tight end spots that can play multiple games.
Okay. So while you're doing, so I put Ford in because I do kind of like the idea as maybe going off a little bit. Houston's defense. I want to just check something. I want to see how many multiple interception games. Like Joe Flacco at the end of the year had a 3 interception, a 2 interception game. But like I know in his career, like you're going to get 2 points for interception, obviously. Like, defensive scoring, sacks, interceptions, right? There's more to it than that, but like that's an easy way to get points. If Joe Flacco comes back down to earth, and I don't know, DeMeco Ryans, he was a defensive-minded coach who can actually put together a really good game plan, I think. Maybe Houston's the interesting choice there, and they're just going to force Joe Flacco into errors. And if you take Amari Cooper out of the game, I don't know. I don't know. That's my logic behind zigging when everyone else is zagging. And if Houston wins, you get their defense for another week, which, it could blow up in our faces, but I don't know.
Okay, so you just said a bunch of stuff without saying anything, I think.
I said maybe we go with the Houston defense. I'll keep Jerome Ford in there as our Cleveland guy. Let's go with the wide receiver plan that you said. So
I think that's the way to play it. Yeah,
so
yeah.
Puka or Cup.
Let's go.
There's no strategy there outside who you like better.
You love Puka, it seems like, and Puka could definitely drop a big game in this. So let's slide Puka in as our second wide receiver. And now we have at least one spot open for the second week.
You want A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith? To me, that's a no-brainer. But
is it?
You've been a believer in Devontae Smith.
Well, he had a good run, but Nando, we have two wide receivers. I mean, the last time we saw A.J. Brown 3 days ago, he was rolling around on the ground holding his knee.
Yeah, that's true.
So now is it a smart strategy to maybe fade A.J. Brown and go with Devonta Smith, and maybe he has the one and done big game?
Or
maybe he gets hot, but then he missed week 18. Or
is everyone going to do that?
Or Nando, let me bring this up as a wrinkle? Or do we go really off the road in Nando style? Because I think this would be a Nando team if we went a little Dallas Goedert. Right?
That'd be an interesting. I feel like everyone's logic isn't going to be that, though, especially with these big red Qs next to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown could have that Terrell Owens game, man.
Sure.
I guess that was a Super Bowl. That wasn't like the wild card game, Like that's a different level of playing through impossibility.
Give me a call, Nando. What do you think?
Keep
in mind here that you still haven't decided on what quarterback you're going to slide in to this spot here. We no longer can use Stafford,
right?
And we can no longer use Goff, right? So, and obviously Flacco. So now you're down to you're looking at Hurts Baker, and Dak Prescott as our QB options here.
What about Jordan Love? I thought we were going to Jordan Love it and then
to open up. Listen, if that's the way you want to play this, we could totally go that way. I mean,
we might not open. The problem is if Green Bay wins, I don't want to stack him with anybody. Like who wide receiver going to stack him with?
Exactly. That's why in my scenario of this particular strategy is you need Jordan Love to have a decent game. Now, do I see him being very successful? He's been hot lately. He's got his weapons and everything. He could go into Dallas and give us a decent game, maybe 240 and 2 touchdowns. But that Dallas defense at home, I just don't see a scenario where Dallas doesn't just – like Green Bay's happy to get into the playoffs as a 7 seed. It's a nice year for them. They're not going anywhere in this year's playoffs, but they could come in here and be happy to be here and maybe lose a game, 30-14, 30-17, and Love gives you enough. Now, do you like Love more than you like Hurts or Baker? I want to go with, you know what, Nando? As we're talking this out, to play it in my situation, I think we should plug in CeeDee Lamb and use Jordan Love, okay? And now you got to hope that Dallas wins that game, and then we're going to wind up going with a Dak Prescott second week fill-in,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what you want to do is Jordan Love here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put CeeDee Lamb in here.
Yep.
And then we got 2. So here's the thing. If we take A.J. Brown, right?
Yes.
Like this. I mean, if it looks like he's not going to play on Friday, and actually, I don't know if you read this in the rules, but whatever. We have until Monday at 8:15 now. You can move guys in and out before the game locks, not before the whole playoffs start. So,
right.
I mean, I read the rules. I don't know if you did, but we could always put Goddard in because that wide receiver tight end spot is flexible like that. You know what I mean? Like it's not the flex, but you can put a tight end in for your wide receiver if you want. So if Brown's out, I mean, you can put Smith in as well. But I mean, like if you really want to try the Goddard move, we got that.
Yeah. All right. So now we're down to
flex, kicker, and defense.
I wish you could blow this up because I really can't see.
Maybe I can. Hold on. Wait, can you see?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I didn't know we could do that.
Scroll. Right. Yeah, there you go. Now scroll down. There you go.
Yeah, so hot. Oh, man. Russ St. Brown.
You're really a creep. AJ Brown is our Eagle representative with the option of replacing him with Devonta or Dallas Goedert, like you said. That leaves a flex spot. Now, when we go to the flex spot, Nando, right?
Yeah.
There's one major team here we obviously didn't touch on. This is going to be our flex spot representative, and that's the Buffalo Bills. So now it's a matter of how do you want to play this? Do you want to play this with either Stephon Diggs or the run game with James Cook? Or do you want to go a little crazy with someone else?
Who else would there like?
I mean,
Gabe Davis.
No,
Very
absolutely.
volatile.
Listen, all right. First off, Gabe Davis is hurt, so
Right.
he's not an option. Yeah, right.
Right.
And Dalton Kincaid.
I got excited about that. My bad.
Yeah, I know. And the only reason I say somebody else is because I don't think he'll be highly owned at all, but I think people will get a little creative with multiple entries and slide in a Dalton Kincaid, possibly, maybe a Khalil Shakir.
I can
so
Khalil Shakir.
Listen, there's people that have 15, 20 entries in this contest, so you will see 1 or 2% entry ownership on some of these guys. So
our one little entry is going to get it done.
Yeah, exactly, Nando. I believe in you. I believe.
Well, this is your team, really.
So it comes down to Diggs or James Cook, Nando. And here's the way I would play this out. Do you have a preference before I say why I'm leaning one way?
No, but I want to guess yours, like the Newlywed Game.
Go ahead.
I think you're going to say James Cook.
Okay, and why?
Because you've loved James Cook all year long.
Okay, that's not the reason why. The reason why, obviously, is we already have our AFC quarterback that we think is going to the Super Bowl in Lamar Jackson up top, right? Then you have Jordan Love, who we're planning on replacing with Dak Prescott. So that's our two. Yeah, I always love when the people just say, like, repeat right after you and act like they're like thinking in step with you. Like that's what you just pulled. So we have Dak. If this team when you do this, you're playing out the playoffs in your head, and everything has to click. So the way we built this team, we're trying to get Jordan Love out of there for Dak Prescott for a Ravens Cowboys Super Bowl, right? Like and not even maybe a Super Bowl, but Dallas is going to play 3 games and go from there. So there's no reason for us to put Stephon Diggs in here, which I think they're the clear team in the first round here that's going to win and move on, because the Steelers aren't even a playoff team and they're trash and don't belong in the contest. I think the Steelers will be everyone's fade in this contest. But for you to put in Stephon Diggs, you're really not looking to get Josh Allen in this lineup next week, Nando, that we built. So for that reason alone, I think James Cook is the clear pick for this type of build.
Right. I'm fine with that. It's just, I don't know if James Cook's any good anymore.
Well,
I mean, I know he's good. I don't know if he's part of the gameplay. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know.
I mean, he's had some really slow weeks now, the last 3. So that is definitely an issue with this type of lineup that we're putting in. But I'll say this. They're 10-point favorites at home in a game that's supposed to be 40-mile-an-hour wind, and they're playing a team without TJ Watt. They should be up, in my opinion, if this game plays out the way I think it will. Bills run all over them, and I mean that in terms of up multiple scores, second half, run the ball to death. Now, if that plays out well, hopefully it's a nice James Cook game. You move on to round 2. If the Chiefs handle their business at home, now you have the Bills and the Chiefs playing each other in round 2 in Buffalo in another probably really cold weather game. And who had a monster game versus the Chiefs the first time around? James Cook. So, and do we really want Stephon Diggs in this contest? Do you really want Stephon Diggs in this contest with a possible bad weather game here to open up the contest versus Pittsburgh, with a matchup up against maybe Joey Porter most of the day, and then a second round matchup with Ladarius Sneed? Okay. And it's not like Stephon Diggs has done anything for the last month and a half either, right? So I think James Cook will be the nice way to fade this a little bit and hope that he's the Bill with a lot of, solid games. I think the Bills play 3 games in this fantasy playoffs, possibly 4 if they can upset Baltimore. So in this scenario, though, that we're building here, Nando, we got to hope that the Bills play to the AFC Championship game, and then obviously Baltimore beats them. So James Cook is our Bills representative. Lock it in.
All right, he's in there already. The second you said his name, I put him in.
Yeah. So that leaves us.
Look at this team that
Nando.
I picked.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
That kicker leaves us now with just a kicker or defense, and we have used. We have used everyone in the NFC except Tampa Bay. We've actually left out Tampa Bay.
Man, I can't believe we didn't use Miami.
And we didn't use Miami. Yeah. That's
on you. That's a failure on your part.
Well, I mean, listen, here's the defenses. Like, you're not going to use Miami's defense because they're broken and beaten. And you're not going to use Tampa's defense because they stink. And you're not going to use the Steelers' defense because TJ Watt is out. They're a bad defense already. And they're going to Buffalo to get stomped. So that leaves us with the way you saw it and with the Texans' defense, I believe, correct?
Oh, yeah. I hate to root against Joe Flacco because it's such a great story, but
well, I mean, listen, Flacco,
man's got to do.
Flacco, as good as he has been, has still had multiple turnovers in most of these games that he's played in, right?
Yeah.
Especially the one, actually, when they played a few weeks ago, these two teams, the Texans, I remember, had double-digit fantasy points on defense, even though they got slammed, with the Browns killing them and putting up a lot of points. The defense had some interceptions and interceptions and sacks and everything. So we're going to go right back to them. At home, the game should be, the crowd should be crazy. Let's go with the Texans defense and lock that in. And that leaves us just with whatever kicker you prefer.
Oh, thanks.
In these games, I'll rule out the Steelers kicker, Nando. So
because of the wind.
Because of the wind, because of the fact that I didn't think there's a possible scenario where they don't score more than 10 points in this game. I think you want a team that's going to score some decent amount of points. And the obvious choice to me would be Tampa Bay's kicker in a good weather environment instead of the 0 degrees of the Miami-Kansas City game. I would go Tampa Bay as the kicker.
All right. I feel like I really had a hand in this team.
You did. Puka Nacua. Puka was your call. Jerome Ford was your call. Jordan Love
was not my call.
Jordan Love call was your
Joey's call. Jerome Ford, you just said, and we put him in there.
Jordan Love will be
great idea.
Jordan Love will be probably less than 5% owned, maybe even less than that in this contest. So this is a Nando team. It's definitely off the rails a little bit.
This is absolutely not Nando. You put together a team thinking this was my style of team, but it's not really.
Okay, so then what would you have done?
Well, we're out of show now, so we'll have to save that.
Exactly. But anyway, I think it was well thought out, Nando. I think it was a well thought out process for this particular team, and you could do this 100 different ways.
Hurts here.
You would have Jalen Hurts.
I would put Hurts as my quarterback.
Okay.
And I would have set up. It's all very confusing now. Probably Godwin there in the AJ Brown spot.
Okay.
Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter now. Life.
That's it. That's all. So, listen, before we go, just to wrap it up, I'll just say keep those wide receiver spots open to try and hook up with your quarterback. If you're not going to play it out where you have, a clear favorite in your eyes, if you really believe in like a Ravens Cowboys Super Bowl or a Bills Niners Super Bowl or something like that, then use those quarterbacks right off the top if that's the way you want to play it.
This episode is brought to you by Rival Fantasy. Rival Fantasy, the coolest fantasy platform not enough people know about, but they will once I'm done, baby, because they're always innovating. They just rolled out seasonal leagues. We set them up for patrons, for our listeners, and they funded over $1,000 in payouts. That's what Rival's all about. They're always innovating. They already had the fantasy book where you can take overs and unders, stack them up, multiply your payout, but then they added challenges so you can set your own lines and put them out there for the community, and then you can browse the community's lines and say, hey, this guy's crazy, I'm going to take the other side. It's cool. And they have fantasy bingo. Rival Fantasy is reminding me how much fun I can have with fantasy football, and use that promo code PLAYER. The promo code is PLAYER. They give you a $100 instant deposit match plus $25 plus a free play. That promo code is PLAYER for up to $125 in deposit bonus and a free play. You can't beat it.
Nice job, Nando, getting the ad in before the game shows.
Man,
nice
you
job.
think after so many weeks of this, you would know better than to talk over the Jaws music.
Yeah, my bad on that. You would think after all these weeks, you would remember to actually run our ad during the show. But
I even said it,
you know,
Theo. I'm like, Chris, you remind us, Chris. And you,
yeah, no, that's right. Anyway, Nando, hopefully that helped people. And you know, if you
I don't know if
play
it
that
did.
quarterback
I don't think it did.
strategy, yeah, well, it was,
it was a waste of a show. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, what can I tell you? But those are the strategies I would apply to this contest. It's either stack your quarterbacks right from the front that you think are going to make the Super Bowl and go X4, or get one of them out that you think is going to lose opening week. Take those points and, you know, recalculate the the batteries as soon as possible.
It's funny, like at the start of this show with this layout on the screen, which I know our podcast listeners can't see, Chris had actually situated himself where his head was above his name on the bottom of the screen, and he somehow lowered himself all the way back down. I don't even know, how did that happen? Did your laptop screen just slowly like blip, 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 blip?
It did.
I think it did.
I think it
that's
did.
really, I mean, that's funny.
Good stuff, Nando. All right, well, listen, hopefully this lineup that we did today, Nando, nets us $150,000 4 weeks from now. So, and then we can throw your Christmas themed party at the bar.
You know,
or buy a whole bunch of Dick Tracy cards that you love, or stupid.
I don't know. I thought that'd be nice. I thought that'd be a nice touch for the box break that we did, and they were.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good, Nando. Anyway, good luck in the fantasy playoffs. Who's your Super Bowl prediction, Nando?
I think it's, well, I don't know, man. 49ers, Browns, maybe.
49ers, Browns. All right. Hey, let's see if that sticks. I'm going to go.
I think it's the 49ers.
I'm going to go 49ers. I'm going to say 49ers, Bills, Nando. I don't even feel good about the Bills. It's just, I just don't love the Ravens still. I just don't think they have enough talent on that team that I could see the Bills' experience in that AFC Championship game, if that's the way it plays out, overcoming the Ravens, you know? Without Mark Andrews, if he doesn't make it back, it's crazy.
I hadn't even thought about this. The Harbaugh narrative that could come out of this if the Ravens win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
If they make the Super Bowl, it's going to be 2 weeks of nauseating. The Harbaugh parents grew up in this house, you know, like
who's got it better than us? Nobody.
Yeah, remember when Harbaugh?
It's so true. That's a good way. And you listen,
sideline.
If you're one of these, everything is scripted, everything is in, you know, like look at what just happened for the playoffs to work out the way it did this final week. Stafford going back to Detroit for the Rams-Lions game, Goff versus McVay. You got Green Bay going to Dallas. Mike McCarthy faces his old team. What else was there? There was what was the other narrative? Oh, Tyreek Hill going back to play his Chiefs former teammates, right?
Yeah.
So you have all these perfect scripts, like, you know, everybody jokes about, oh, the NFL script was written already before the year. Well, if you want to play it out one step further, watch. The Browns are going to win this game. Flacco's going to go back and play the Ravens in Baltimore. That'll be your week 2 storyline narrative, right? The Chiefs versus the Bills, round 28. Playing round 2. The Eagles versus the Niners in the big matchup that, they're all arguing with each other. Debo has his beef with the Eagles. It's the big matchup from last year's NFC Championship game when Purdy went down, and the Niners telling the Eagles, we would have beat you if our quarterback stayed healthy. They proved it in Philadelphia, and now Philly has to play Niners and get eliminated in San Francisco. So it's the San Francisco playoff revenge game, and then Detroit goes into Dallas where they just got screwed 3 weeks earlier. So Detroit goes into Dallas. So all 4 games, if it plays out that way, you're going to have a crazy narrative, right? And then you play it out. Dallas goes to San Francisco for the NFC Championship game. You have the legacy Dallas-San Francisco of the 80s, right? And Dak went in, and we're a different team that went into San Francisco earlier in the year and got killed. Can Dak win a big one on the road in San Francisco? Whole thing like that. And then
look at this
narrative you want. Great, Nando. What is that worth? 7 cents?
Probably not
Ken
much at all,
Jr.
but it's Ken Griffey Jr.
Way to bring that into a football talk narrative.
Well, you talked about Dick Tracy. It was on my Dick Tracy pile in front of me.
So anyway, that's that, Nando. Everybody enjoy the fantasy playoffs and enjoy your fantasy contest and sign up at over at NFFC.
This is the one you said you wanted me to send to you, right?
That's it. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll catch you later.
What's going on? What did I miss?